my family didn't grow up, I didn't grow up in church at all. A lot of people think because I'm a pastor, I walked out of my mom's womb with the Bible in my hand going, turn or burn, turn or burn. I didn't do that. How many of you say, I didn't grow up in church? Anybody didn't grow up in church? That was me. First time I stepped inside of a church building, I was 16 years old. My aunt had died in a car wreck. She was an alcoholic. Died in a car wreck. The pastor who did my aunt's funeral came to our house, shared the gospel with my parents. My parents got radically saved. They understood. I just did what they did. So I repeated some prayer and then went to church. I'll never forget my first Sunday in church. You ever thought about, see, we come to church all the time, and so it becomes kind of common to us, unfortunately. But have you ever thought about how weird church can be for the first time attender? I walked in, I didn't know anything. I walked in, they gave me a bulletin. I thought it was the Bible. So I thought it was bigger than this, because at grandmama's house, it's 80 pounds with naked angels on the front, right? And I went in, and I saw the Lord's Supper out, communion out, and I thought that was a snack because the preacher preached too long and people were hungry. I saw the baptistry. I'm like, man, this church is legit. It's got a hot tub. I didn't know what a baptistry was. And then the music started. The worship band got up. And they was like, stand up, sit down, lift your hands, turn around, hug a neck, kiss a baby, up, down, up, down. It's like P90X for Jesus, right? It's exhausting. Worshiping Jesus and burning calories. Good morning. I started going to church more and more often, but all my hope was in still myself. And it was all about what I'd done. From 16 to 21, I prayed a prayer. I walked an aisle. I got dunked in water. I pray. I ask for forgiveness. I go to church. And guess what? From 16 to 21, my life never changed. When I was 17, I started partying, drinking alcohol, getting drunk. In fact, I would say probably my life morally got worse after going to church. Started getting high. When I was a senior, I started smoking weed and started getting high every day. Started chasing girls. They ran faster. I would run faster to catch them. From 16 to 21, I would go to church and I would be moved emotionally. And so often I would go to youth on Wednesday night high, or I would come to church on Sunday mornings with a headache, hungover. Or I would take my girl, and as shameful as this, I would take my girlfriend to church on a Wednesday night. We would leave church and then go find a dark road somewhere. And this is what I would do sometimes, because the band would start playing, the lights would be down low, and I would come to an altar or stage, and this is what I would do. I would get emotionally stirred, and I'd go, God, I'm sorry. God, I'm going to do better. God, I'm going to try harder. God, I'm going to stop doing this. I'm going to stop doing that. And God, I'm going to start reading 16 chapters of my Bible every day. And I would make all these promises, and it was I. And it was all about what I did. It was still faith in myself. God, I'm going to do better. I'm going to try harder. God, I'm going to do this. And you know what? It might work for a day. It might even work for a week, or it might work for a month. But eventually, like what Peter says, a dog returning to his vomit, I would go right back to the same junk. Why? Because the power is all of myself. And I was in this for 5 years, this never-ending cycle. God, I'm going to do better. I'm going to try harder, and go right back to it. God, I'm going to do better. I'm going to try harder, go right back to it. God, I'm going to do better. I'm going to try harder, go right back to it. Have you ever felt that way before? That you're in this never-ending cycle? But when I was 21, something different happened I can't explain, because it was a God work and not mine. We had a guy at our church named Mark Job come. He spoke. He was the guest speaker. Mark Job is Carrie Job's dad. You ever heard of Carrie Job? I don't even remember what he was preaching on, but he had this huge sword waving it around. I think he said, come to Jesus or I will behead you. No, I don't know what he said. And then the band started playing. I started getting emotionally stirred. I came to an altar or stage much like this, and I started my same prayer. God, I'm going to do better. I'm going to try harder. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. God, I'm sorry. I'm going to stop doing this with my girlfriend. I'm going to do. And then in a moment, like I felt like this huge weight on me. And in a moment, it's like I was blind and my eyes were open, completely dependent on God. My eyes were open and I could see, and my prayer changed. Like He gave me faith to even pray a different prayer. And this is what I said. I remember saying, God, I'm not going to change. I'm not going to do better. I'm not going to try harder. I'm not going to quit, because I can't. I am hopelessly dependent upon you. And so Jesus, unless you send your Holy Spirit inside of me and you change me from the inside out, unless you do this, unless you change me, then this is who I am, and I can't change it and I can't fix it. That's me. So unless you change me, then that's who I am. I am desperate for you. I quit, I give up, I surrender, I can't. And I think sometimes the greatest two words we can ever say is I can't. Because God can. And God's never spoke to me in an audible voice. Maybe he has you, he never has me, because if he did, I'd probably wet myself and pass out. But for the first time, I could clearly hear the voice of God saying this: you're mine now. You're mine. You're not going to be perfect, but you will be different. And through the power of the Holy Spirit, I'm going to make you different. And I'm going to change you from the inside out. And from that day, I'm not perfect, mess up all the time, but I am different. And my faith isn't in myself, but my faith is in him. See, here's the truth. We really are saved by works. We really are saved by works. It's just not our works. It's the works of Jesus. And our faith is in him. So who are you trusting, friend? Do you realize how utterly, hopelessly dependent you are on Christ?